Well, Clemson held their annual spring game yesterday, and it was a disaster. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment down below, all that kind of stuff. It really helps me out. I appreciate it. It didn't go good yesterday for Clemson. Now, you can't draw a straight line from spring games to the season, so we'll get that out of the way right now because anytime you talk about a spring game, whether you're overly positive, overly negative, somewhere in between, you're going to get 100 comments in the comment section. It's just a spring game. I know it's just a spring game. There's a reason that coaches, here's how spring practices work. Most of you know this, okay? It's about a month long. You get a certain number of practices. And basically, the last practice of the spring is what we refer to as the spring game. Now, teams do this about 3 times per spring. Scrimmages is what it is. It's a team on team scrimmage. And most programs do 3 of these. They do, one after a couple of weeks, one the next week, and then they do a final scrimmage, which is what we refer to as the spring game, and people come and watch it. So it is just a practice. But look, there's a reason coaches do these. You can tell things from a spring game, not a straight line. This is what this player looked like in the spring, so he's going to look exactly like that in the fall. Or this is what this side of the ball looked like in the spring, so they're going to look exactly like that in the fall. No, you cannot do that. But there are things you can glean from a spring game. Again, it's the reason coaches hold these things is so they can get a look at the way players are performing, right? And it didn't go well for Clemson, especially on the offensive side of the ball. What is going on with Clemson? I would be curious to know y'all's thoughts. What has happened to Clemson offensively? Look, the defense played fine yesterday, but we know that already. Spring is about answering questions. And I got my questions answered when it comes to Clemson, and that is they're still going to be good on the defensive side of the ball like they have been the last 4 years, and offensively, they don't appear to have moved forward at all. What has happened to them on the offensive side of the ball? Now, there's a couple of sort of obvious, easy answers, right? Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence don't grow on trees, and Clemson got a little spoiled. They had 2 of the best quarterbacks they've ever had in program history, back-to-back, basically, with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. You had Kelly Bryant in between there for a short period of time, but he, of course, was benched in favor of Trevor Lawrence. And those don't grow on trees, so you're not going to constantly have that level of quarterback coming through your program. That's not a knock on Clemson. That's for anybody, right? But where's the wide receiver talent? Where's the offensive line that knows how to block anybody? They don't have a center still. I mean, it's just alarming. And this isn't, again, if this was the first spring practice where we had seen, and it was a surprise to everybody that offensively Clemson didn't look good, maybe you go, well, but they always look fine. Clemson offensively has been heading downhill for about 4 years, really since 2020. Clemson as a program, whether you're looking at overall record, whatever you want to, accomplishments within a season, whatever you want to look at, they've been on a downward trajectory since 2020. They've lost more games every year than they did the year before for 4 years in a row. And they're up to 4 losses a year now, coming off the 8-4 regular season last year. They're blown out by Duke in week 1. Went on to lose to Florida State and whoever else and finished 8-4. But it's a downward trajectory. There's just no denying it. And they really haven't dropped off on the defensive side of the ball, so it's pretty obvious and apparent where the problems and issues are with Clemson from a football playing perspective, and they're on the offensive side of the ball. They have a huge turnover problem. They've missed at quarterback, it looks like twice in a row now. To DJ, to ukulele, ukulele. They started him for a while after Trevor Lawrence. The fans didn't like him. They blamed the play calling. They blamed DJ Ukulele. They blamed Dabo. They blame whatever they blame. They run him out of town on a rail. Cade Klubnik's going to be the savior. He comes in. The guy's no better than DJ was. He's just not. You can look at the stats from last year. They're almost identical. He's a turnover machine. Clemson as an offense is a turnover machine. They turned the ball over every single time last year. And so you have that as your backdrop heading into this spring game, okay? This isn't, let me give you sort of a compare and contrast here. to sort of try to make my point, which I have a hard time doing because I ramble like an idiot. Let's say we watch the Southern Cal spring game this year, and offensively, they don't look great. How worried are you going to be on a scale of 1 to 10 that that's going to be the case in the fall? Now, obviously, it would depend what exactly we saw in the spring game, and they're losing Caleb Williams, and, there is whoever they bring in is not going to give them that level of play. But, the point I'm making is we've never seen a Lincoln Riley team with a bad offense, ever. So if I watched the Southern Cal spring game this year and their offense isn't clicking on all cylinders, I'm not pulling the fire alarm on that offensively. Now, they've got defensive issues. They're sort of the opposite of Clemson in that way. But the point is, if Clemson's offense had been humming along year after year after year after year after year, and then I saw what I saw yesterday in the Clemson spring game, maybe I'm not as concerned if I'm a Clemson fan. But you have to view yesterday's spring game in the context that we're in, which is Clemson's offense has been on a steady downhill trajectory for 4 years. Cade Klubnik yesterday in the spring game, 13 of 26. 13 in a spring game. Cade Klubnik is a guy, this is his third year at Clemson. He's got a full year starting under his belt. And even going back 2 seasons ago when DJ Ukulele was there, Oogie Badoogie, he played a ton because they kept taking DJ out of the game because he wasn't any good either. So Cade Klubnik isn't some guy that just showed up on campus last week. He's been there 3 years. He started all last year. It's the same offensive coordinator back this year. So same playbook, same plays. 13 of 26 in a spring game where the defense isn't allowed to touch you. Missing open receivers, bad reads, interceptions, of course. He looks uncomfortable in the pocket. He looks like he lacks confidence, which sometimes can be a coaching issue, not necessarily a talent issue. Look, the kid's got talent, okay? Every major program in the country wanted him out of high school, but not every quarterback hits at the next level, right? And it looks like, to me, Cade Klubnik's not a high level. I'm trying not to use the word trash, garbage, doo-doo, all sort of the hyperbole we do during the season when we're ranting and raving about stuff. I'm trying not to use any of those words. So I'm trying to think like the nicest way I can put it. Cade Klubnik is not a high level power 4 quarterback. He's just not. You combine that with the fact that the Clemson wide receiver position has disappeared off the face of the map going back 2 or 3 years now. They had a string of first, second, third round wide receivers that all went on to have success in the NFL. I can't find a single one. Now, they got a true freshman, Wesco. He caught a touchdown yesterday. Maybe he hits at a high level, but you're putting a lot of eggs in a true freshman basket, and there's nothing to compliment him. Nothing. Their best player the last couple of years has been Will Shipley. He's now gone. And to be fair to Clemson, by the way, Philip Maffa, who Clemson, like a lot of teams with running backs, it's like a 1A, 1B. It's hard to really determine who's a starting running back on a lot of teams anymore. They've got like 2 guys that rotate a lot, usually, most teams. Maffa was that guy for Shipley the last couple of years. So he's really, really good. I like Maffa. He's more of a bowling ball type running back in my mind than Will Shipley being maybe more of a out in space, speedster, shifty type deal. Maffa's more of a between the tackles bowling ball to me. Now, I'm not, so whatever, maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I view him anyway. But he is good. He didn't play yesterday. And look, again, I'm going to reiterate, this is a spring game. We can't draw a straight line from yesterday to the fall. I get it. But one of the things you look for as a fan when you watch your spring game, you head into the spring game sort of knowing what your team looked like the year before, right? And at least this is what I do. And I'm assuming a lot of fans probably do the same thing. You go, okay, we did this last year. This is what we lost. This is what we're bringing in. These are the areas I hope we get better in, right? Just to take the quarterback position at Clemson, you would have hoped Cade Klubnik would have came out yesterday and showed a better command of the offense, better decision-making, better throws, looked more comfortable in the pocket. You didn't get any of that. You didn't get any of that. He looked bad. I mean, there's just no other way really to describe it. The best quarterback I saw play yesterday for Clemson was some walk-on named Pearman, because the number 2 quarterback for Clemson didn't look any good either. He threw a pick 6. So the turnover machine keeps on rolling in Tatertown. They can't hang on to the ball offensively. And, you know, I've heard Clemson fans tell me, well, our defense will keep us in every game we play. Great. You're the ACC Iowa. That's what you're becoming. Clemson is becoming the ACC version of Iowa. Well, I know Clemson's got a great defense. Peter Woods is going to be one of the best defensive players in the country. True freshman Sammy Brown's probably going to play a lot. Like last year, I've got some questions about Clemson's secondary. It's still really good, but I think their front 7 is obviously their strong suit, at least to me. Again, feel free to let me know how wrong I am. You always do. But so when I go into yesterday's spring game, I don't really care I know what I'm getting with Clemson's defense. I know the stars on Clemson's defense. I know where the talent is. I don't have a whole lot of concerns about Clemson defensively. I don't really need to study Clemson's spring game this year to find out if I think they're going to have a pretty good defense. They are. Every question I had about Clemson yesterday was answered in the negative. Is Cade Klubnik going to look better this year than he looked last year? He looked the same to me. Are they going to find a wide receiver or 2? No. Wesco, true freshman, again, looked good in a backup role yesterday, catching passes from mostly backup quarterbacks. We'll see, what that means for the season. Maffa didn't play. So in terms of like a replacement for Shipley, I don't think there is a replacement for Shipley. And it's not Maffa. Again, you're viewing the running back situation at Clemson and in a lot of places wrong anymore if you're trying to find the quote-unquote starting running back. Maffa's not Shipley's replacement. Maffa and Shipley were kind of a tandem the last couple of years. Shipley's gone, Maffa's back. You have to find the tandem now to go with Maffa. Again, it didn't look good. Now, the low-hanging fruit part of this, people say, well, should have used the portal. And yeah, you should have used the portal. That's becoming obvious at this point. Like making fun of Clemson or pointing out the fact that Dabo Swinney and Clemson just refused to utilize the portal. I mean, that's like getting on here and trying to explain to people that the sun rises in the east. I mean, just everybody just automatically knows that. We know, and it is a big problem. But Clemson was really good in the late 2010s when there was no such thing as a transfer portal. Where are those wide receivers that they were recruiting these guys 10 years ago? They were recruiting these guys 8 years ago, 6 years ago. Where are they? Where are the offensive linemen? They lost out on another big one this past week. Lost out to Georgia. Mason, what's his name? Mason Short. But this offensive lineman, he's actually from the Augusta area where I live, and it came down to, I don't know, I think Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State or whatever, and he ended up choosing Georgia. But where are your offensive line has been bad, honestly, for a couple of years now. Again, not a single wide receiver anybody can name. Probably your best pass catcher last year was a tight end. I believe he's gone. Shipley's gone. He was the only player on Clemson. Well, Cade Klubnik and Will Shipley were probably the only 2 players on Clemson's team that almost any college football fan could name. In other words, you could walk up to a random college football fan and say, name 2 Clemson players. Those would be the 2 players they named. Cade Klubnik because he's the quarterback, Will Shipley because he was your best player. Shipley's gone. Klubnik's still there. Boy, I bet you wish you could reverse that. Bet you wish Klubnik was gone and Will Shipley was still there. So I don't know what the answers are for Clemson. I don't think there are any answers for this season. Clemson, will they make the playoffs? They might, because somebody from the ACC is going to make the playoffs. Is it going to be them? Is it going to be Florida State? Does Miami have a pop year? NC State is ranked. Is it going to be some complete and total surprise team out of the ACC? Somebody from the ACC is getting into playoffs. Clemson's probably got as good or close to as good of a chance as anybody, but they're not making a run once they get in there. If Clemson is the ACC representative in the playoffs, it won't be pretty. It won't be pretty. Offensively, they are bad. And it's hard to see a path from now to the fall that shows enough improvement for me to change my mind. Now, the good news is, if you're a Clemson fan, we have another portal window opening in about 3 weeks. At the end of these spring practices, there's another 15-day portal window that opens up. So, you get another chance to watch your head coach ignore it. While they're going to be talented wide receivers that enter the portal at the end of April. There's going to be talented offensive linemen that enter the portal at the end of April. Tight ends, running backs, whatever. And you get to watch your team and your head coach completely ignore it yet again. I didn't see anything yesterday from Clemson that made me change my mind at all about what I think about Clemson for 2024. They got blown out in week 1 last year by Duke. They're getting blown out again this year in week 1. They played Georgia in week 1 in Atlanta. And how is Clemson going to – they won't score 10 points. How? They got problems. They got big problems. And again, most of this information I got from Clemson fans. So I'm sure there'll be a few Clemson fans that'll show up to defend your team. But look, I can spend an hour right now. I could put it up right now. I could spend an hour showing you tweets from Clemson people saying the exact same things I'm saying. Didn't look good. Terrible. Cade Klubnik needs to go. Lost. Confused. Hasn't gotten any better. Where's the wide receivers? I saw one tweet. I'm going to put this on the screen right now. Cade Klubnik's your starting quarterback. You have a backup quarterback. And then you have this a walk-on from like 2022, I think, named Perriman, whatever his name is. Look at this tweet. Clemson has gone from Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence to crossing their fingers and hoping and praying that some walk-on can win them a game. Sad.